What's up, dudes? Max here, back with another episode of Real Talk. Usually in these, I just like to cover some basic understanding of what's going on with the community, what's going on with the current games that are either being played or are soon to be played, and just things that I'm generally passionate about and want to talk to you guys on a real-ass level. Today's episode doesn't really cover one specific fighting game or even a genre of fighting games or games in general. It's just kind of a mindset that I've had for quite some time, and I could sort of compose myself, think about the way I think of it right now, and that's considering how much you love something, how much you hate something, and that wonderful space in between. The older I get, the more I start to really realize that I'm not super defined by just liking something or hating something, how there's kind of a wonderful in-between with everything, and that really starts to affect the way I think about stuff, much less the things I liked back in the day, some of my favorite games of all time, and how I even think about those right now. This can be a very tough concept considering the fact that the internet loves to think in either one way or the other, and that's because mainly a lot of vocal people are sort of that way. They like to be extremely vocal about some way they think about something, or some way that they dislike thinking about something, you know what I mean? The finite black, the finite white, and there's usually not an area in between because they're super passionate about it, and that passion either shows up in an extreme positive or an extreme negative. I used to feel the same way. When I felt the way I felt about certain movies, certain games, the consoles I was defending when I was younger, if not a teenager, when I had my Sega Saturn, when I had my Sega Dreamcast, I was a die-hard Sega fan and absolutely hated everything about the other consoles. I disliked Nintendo just for being Nintendo and childish. I disliked Sony because it was so expensive and everyone around it and they didn't have any good games. I'm mostly talking about fandom. I'm mostly talking about the things you heavily enjoy in life, whether it's like movie, music, comics, TV, like anything like that, video games especially. The overall defense force when it comes to people that are defending like console wars or a certain type of game over another game just really, over time to me, just became exhausting. And I stopped arguing with people on the internet. I stopped trying to convince others of how they should think with the way I think, because it is really damn hard to try to convince someone of something when either they don't like it and you like it, or vice versa. You still see this nowadays with console versus PC, or Nintendo versus Sony, or Sony versus Xbox. It's still out there absolutely everywhere. All I'm trying to say is, with the way I think now, I really don't like putting much energy into it. And even with the things that I still personally love, my favorite fighting games of all time, my favorite movies of all time, I'm able to go back and identify the things that I love about them, as well as the things that I'll completely acknowledge really aren't that great and don't make it critically one of the greatest things of all time. But to me personally, it still holds a lot of nostalgic regard, and I do feel that nostalgia takes a huge part of it. Nostalgia is such a huge aspect of my life that it's impossible for me to ignore it. And even when I consider a game like Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, which I do still consider to be the greatest fighting game of all time, I can sit here and tell you without a fact, it is not the greatest fighting game of all time on a technical level. Third Strike at a really high level is actually a super broken fighting game and really isn't even that much fun. However, at the earlier levels, the low to mid level, it's extremely fun. Some people even say Third Strike to be a balanced fighting game, which I'm like, what the hell? It is in no way a balanced fighting game at all, and is in fact one of the most unbalanced fighting games with an extremely high top tier. But that doesn't change the fact that I still think, to me personally, it's the greatest fighting game of all time, because it sets up for amazing situations, and I can still look at that game in 2017 and think it's just a gorgeous game to look at. To me, fighting games aren't just about how you play them, the level you play them at. It's a lot of different things in between that compose it to be one of the greatest of all time, and that's really where the gray area is, where I can acknowledge that things are not great right now, but they still are awesome. I can acknowledge that Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is lacking in so many ways, but I'm still looking forward to the gameplay, and I can acknowledge that Tekken 7 is the most fun fighting game out there for me right now, but is missing a ton of things that other fighting games have had for a long time, including basic tutorials and better customization. Really, it's about accepting the things that are bad about things you love. It's about looking at something that you are absolutely attached to, that you love with your heart, with your deepest of heart's desires, and you acknowledge that there are things wrong with it. To me, that means you really are a fan of something. And that's the border between being a fanboy and a fan when it comes to a lot of the different media and games and movies that we love. To me, a fanboy is someone that will love something no matter what. No matter how much the company gouges you of DLC prices, no matter how rough the roster is, you are on the side of that game no matter what. And then you have other people that kind of acknowledge things the way they are and accept the fact that this could be better, and I do hope it gets better. That still makes you a fan, in my opinion. And that's not a bad thing. I think being critical is a really good thing, and it's something that you're never gonna hear me not do. I'm always going to be critical about certain things in fighting games, and if it seems like, oh man, Max is being super critical about something like projectile zoning in Injustice 2, it's absolutely true, because I find projectile zoning in Injustice 2 to be very uninteresting, while zoning in fighting games usually is really interesting in games like Killer Instinct and Guilty Gear Xrd, but that doesn't change the fact that Injustice 2 is an amazing fighting game with some of the best graphics and really one of the most highest regarded presentations of any of them out there. It's hard to deny that fact, even though there's one aspect of the gameplay that I'm not really a big fan of. That'll be really hard to swallow for a lot of people out there, but I think it's important for you guys to understand that, especially where I'm coming from on all this stuff. I'm a Libra by nature. I find the balance in things in life. I like to make people happy, so I like to make content and videos around things that I really enjoy, even though they might not be popular like King of Fighters 14 or something like Third Strike from back in the day, but I still like to cover the new stuff because being surprised is amazing. Being surprised by something you've never played before or something that's brand new is easily one of the most fun aspects of being a content creator. So I do love to balance it out. And just because there is a fighting game that hasn't shown up on this channel and maybe some others show up a little bit more, I do like making people happy with certain games every once in a while still making the ones that interest a lot of people and get high view counts. But there is a wonderful in-between. There isn't just a black or white where Max didn't make this game, he must hate it, or Max makes a lot of videos for this game, he must really like it. It's definitely not that. There is a glorious in-between of stuff that I love about fighting games, I love about making content, and it's finding a balance of that stuff. And that applies to really everything out there, especially the stuff that you're a fan of. Really didn't want to come across as being too preachy in this video, because I'm not trying to tell you guys the way you should think about things. I absolutely don't want you to think that taking a side is specifically a bad thing. All I'm trying to communicate is that I learned a lot and started enjoying things a lot more when I wasn't just being on the defense force of one thing, being a fanboy about something, while still trying to be a fan but be critical at the same time of the things I enjoy, because really I found a lot of the things that I enjoy the most about all the stuff that I like about video games and media and entertainment to be about the gray area in between. So that's all I got. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. I do know the internet likes to think in black and white, and the gray area in between can be really hard to find, but it seems like a lot of other people do actually feel this way about things. It's just when you're super passionate about something, and if you are really upset with the way something is, it can come across as being very negative on the internet, while you might actually not directly feel that way because there's only so much information that can go into a tweet or a Facebook post or even a video like this one. So don't really take things at face value. Try to decipher what you like about that and what you don't like about it. And if you still really like it in the end, that means you're actually a true fan and you probably love it because you're able to accept the things that are wrong about it and still go on thinking that it's the best thing ever. Appreciate you sitting around listening to this rant. I hope it gives you a better idea where I'm coming from, and let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, dudes, thanks for watching. My name is Max, and I'll see you next time.